is a live, hopefully. Hopefully I am live now. That's not working. So I hope you're out there. Hope someone's out there. We'll find out here in a minute. We'll get some live chat. Greetings from Pennsylvania. Got some people out there. Good, good. You may have noticed I kind of messed up. I tried to open up a, you can announce live feeds ahead of time, but apparently I don't know how to do it because I messed it up. But hopefully we're live now, and you'll forgive me for that mess up with the other live feed. And we're live now, I think. Welcome everyone. Sue Ann Carlson, Jay Smith, hi from Utah. Dorothy Stockman, hi Bob from Delaware. So we're there, we're live. I'm still at, this week I am back to the lake. If you remember, we've been at this lake for a while. You might think, well, you've been here too long. I'm only here 3.5 days a week. So at that rate, I think I could go the whole month here every 3.5 days, and I'd never be over my 14. But we split it. Last week, if you remember, I was up at near Sisters. And so this week we are back at the lake. I love this lake. That's why I love coming here. I'm parked right next to it. And so I love looking out at the lake. Let me show it to you here behind me. And you can see I get a lot of sun where I'm parked. I get a lot of sun here. So that's why we're here. Hello from St. Albans, Queens. Hi, Cody. Is he around here? He's usually around somewhere. Hi, Bob from Louisiana. That's hard for me to read all those things. But I love this little lake. It's really disappearing fast. It's down to pretty much nothing, but I really enjoy it. Let me turn you around and show you. It's hot. It's gotten kind of hot here. And I'll show you what I've done with my van to keep it cool when it's this hot. Let me turn the camera. Okay, so normally if I had enough forward sun, I'd have my windshield cover on it. But I get very little morning sun on the windshield. So I've just put and I hope my sound is good. If the sound is good, let me know. I have it set up the way I usually set it up, so I'm hoping the sound is still good. And you can see that on the side here, I have, okay, don't do that. You know, how do I stop you from doing that? Oh, that's okay. I just put a sheet over, okay, stop. I just put a sheet over the doors so that during the day, none of the heat shines directly in, but it leaves a full ventilation. And across the back, right now the sun is shining directly on the back. I've got the door open, and this is a luminette. It's a shade cloth, but it also is aluminum instead of fabric. And so it's highly reflective. And man, just here, my hand can feel the heat coming out from under there. Now, when I walk back, I don't feel that heat. And now that I'm here, I can feel the heat coming off it. And I've got this box, my box is on the back. So that pulls the fabric away. And they're just clamped. See, just standard old spring clamps. And I'm pretty happy with the luminette so far. It allows the back doors to be open and me to get full ventilation. So I'm pretty happy with that. Oh, and here's something else I just got. It's this is a tailgater, and it connects to the tire. I don't know how much of that you can see from this angle. I guess I can move my barbecue. You can see the tire, and it drapes over the tire. It's called a tailgater tire table. And I'm just really happy with it so far. And I'm doing a video on it, and I'm really pleased with it. And you can just see it just hangs over the tire and creates a table. Very strong, hopefully very durable. And, oops, I lost all my notes. Can't lose my notes. Casey's mad at me because I messed things up. And she's right. I mess things up. So it's right that she's mad at me. She keeps me on the straight and narrow. Okay, let's come back around. Sound is good. Great. I'm using the exact same setup, so I had expected it to be good. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So you see the lake. I'm so, I don't have any announcements. I guess that's kind of why, one more reason I'm feeling kind of discombobulated is because I don't have any announcements. And so I'm waiting for do announcements while I get some questions in. We're doing pets today. Today is the topic today is pets. And any questions you have on pets, and if you may not have enough, and I may not be able to give you a good answer. Cats, I don't know anything about cats. I've known a number of people that have had cats, so I can relay that information, what they have done and told me. But I've never had a cat in a van, so I don't know how that really works. And I can't really help you there. I've known people with birds, big parrots, and I could tell you what they did, so I'd be glad to help you there. But that's still not direct experience, and direct experience is still by far the best. But I'll answer all your questions about pets. Maybe you want to know about coyotes. I'll tell you about coyotes because that's a question I get all the time. Are coyotes an issue? Are rattlesnakes an issue? And then I'll tell you about rattlesnakes vaccine. If I forget to ask, someone make sure you ask. Rattlesnake vaccine is a very good thing. I recommend it. I actually have 2 videos on with my veterinarian. I've been going to the same veterinarian for a long time, probably 6 or 8 years. And he knows Cody real well, and I know him well. We did a video, and no one watched it. It's one of my least watched videos, and I couldn't understand. I still can't understand that. I mean, there are a lot of questions you have specific about your pets on the road, and it does. How do you get a veterinarian on the road? How do you? What about coyotes? What about ticks? You're on the road. You're going to be outside a lot. He's going to be in ticks, and all those questions. And those, it asks all those. The first question is about rattlesnake vaccines. Good. Somebody jumped ahead. Okay. And before I do anything else, I want to read a letter. I like to read letters to let you know not how great I am, but how great you are. It's you watching my videos that gets YouTube's attention and brings people to the channel. Every time you watch a video, that makes, like we jumped from, I think after a few months, we were at like, oopsie. After a few months where we were like at, oops, okay, hold still now. After a few months, we were like at 10,000 viewers. Then the first year we had 100,000. The second year we hit 200,000. And the first year we hit, the third year, actually it's not even been that long. I think it's the exopposite. The first year we hit 100. Oh yeah, it is right. The third year we just hit 300,000. And so that, the more views, the more likes that you do, and you get the credit for that, the more YouTube pushes them, and then people find the channel, and it gives hope. So I want you to know what your work is going for. Your work in supporting the channel, hitting the thumbs up, subscribing, and all of that. So this is a letter I get tons of letters, and I've been setting them aside to read to you so that you'll all know the good work you do. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to leave out anything that would identify this person. She does. I'll try and avoid male or female, and that will really eliminate it. I'm a 66-year-old person. She says what she says what she is. I'm very smart, aren't I? I'm a 66-year-old woman. 6 years ago, I got very sick and still suffer from chronic pain. I need to use a walker to get around outside. And she says where she's at, and it's a northern cold state. So imagine being in a northern cold state in a chronic pain, cold and dark in the winter. The weather here is hard on me physically and mentally. I became severely depressed and looked at death as my only way out. I felt both hopeless and helpless. And I mentioned this last time, and this might be a theme on most of the letters we read. I understand that depression. I understand that hopelessness and helplessness. And a great deal of what I do is because I have been hopeless and helpless and looked at death as my only way out. I've been there and I've done that. Not even all that long ago. Then I found you on YouTube. My world has opened up, and now I'm full of hope and don't feel helpless anymore. I can live. And I tell you what, when I get a letter like this, man, that just makes everything I do and everything I've gone through and the pain and the hopelessness that I felt, more than worth it. I mean, the fact that I can share with you that hope that I have found in this wonderful way of life is so meaningful to me. One of your videos showed a man in a wheelchair, and he was making it work and happy. Tears of joy, Bob, for what you have and continue to do for me and others like me. Thank you. So I really appreciate that email, and I want you to know that you get a great deal of the credit, a lot of the credit for emails like that, because it's your work in watching the videos and hitting the thumbs up, subscribing, and if you support the channel, then we're helping people through Homes on Wheels Alliance. If you support the channel, any money I make from the channel after I live on, I give that money to Homes on Wheels Alliance to support it. Okay, so we'll do pets, questions, and answers. Rob and Marvy ask, rattlesnake vaccines, pros and cons and costs. I've never gotten one. I'm a fan. My vet highly recommends them. In fact, I've got this video, so just go to YouTube, type in at the search bar, cheap RV living veterinarian, and these two videos will come up, and we talk explicitly about, he recommends them. He says they work. Your dog's still going to get sick. The vaccine will keep him from dying, but he's still going to get sick, and he still needs to get immediate medical attention, but it should keep your dog from dying. I think you get an initial vaccine, and then a few months, and you have to talk to your vet. I'm not a veterinarian, and it's been a long time since I had this conversation, so I may not remember. Then you get an initial follow-up, like after 3 months, you get another follow-up, and then it becomes a yearly inoculation, just like most inoculations are. And it really helps. I mean, if your dog or pet, I assume it's for other pets, I don't know. I know it's for dogs. If your dog does get bit, then he will almost certainly survive. He'll still be very sick, and you still have to get him to a vet right away, or you'll find the sickness you can get infection. I mean, rattlesnakes' mouths aren't clean, and there's a puncture wound and all of that. All that's really important. I got to get out of the sun so I don't burn up. So I got a place here in the shade that I'm going to set. Hopefully we can get the light worked out. Okay, how's that going to be? That's not so bad, I guess. We'll do this. Let me adjust my monopod. How's that? That's not too bad. How about that? We'll just do that. Okay, so yes, big fan of rattlesnake vaccines. They do work. An unknown says, dog poop ethics while boondocking. Well, ethics are always a matter of each individual making their own decisions, aren't they? My personal ethics, and you could disagree and think I'm wrong, and that's just fine with me, are that it's the question is, should I be out? I'm in the national forest. You've seen where I am. Cody is out running around and pooping all over the national forest. I'm perfectly fine with leaving it. I don't pick it up. I kind of think of it as pretty natural. It's you're finding, wherever I go, I find coyote poop, to be honest with you, and so. I don't worry anything about picking up pet poop out here. Boondocking, of course, in the towns and city, I spend 3.5 days a week in Medford at my sister's, and of course, in fact, I still got the bags in my pocket. I got to take them out. I always have a bag, and I always pick it up. Never, ever leave it out in town around people. That's just wrong. But I see no reason to pick it up out here at all. It's God made it. Let God leave it there. Nature will deal with it. Another one is coyotes and your dog safety. Yes, absolutely. Coyotes are a severe danger to your dogs, and cats in particular. I've never had a cat. I have known a number of people with cats that lost them. They got out one day, they never came back, they never saw them again. I would guess a coyote got them. And yes, I have had coyotes after Cody, and my dog Homer before then. One time, Homer was a big dog and extremely, extremely athletic, very fast. He was fast as any coyote. No coyote could outrun him, but he was aggressive. Well, that's not the right way to say it. He loved other people and he loved other dogs. But if he saw a pair of coyotes, and I do mean a pair, he was off like a rocket after them. And what I always found is that a pair of coyotes, if you run after them, they split up and they run away for their lives. Coyotes are not bold and aggressive unless they pack. And then once they pack, all bets are off. They are bold and aggressive. I had a friend who had a pack come right into his camp and go right after his dog. His was a pretty big dog too, almost as big as Homer was, and not afraid. His dog wasn't afraid of anything either. Homer wasn't. So yes, it's a very serious issue. If you have a little dog, man, you got to have it under control all the time. And I've heard of, and I've not seen it myself, I've heard of people with their little dogs on a leash, just a leash in their hand. They're walking down the road, and out of nowhere, a coyote comes up and snatches the dog, snatches the leash out of the person's hand, and they're gone. You're not going to outrun that coyote, even if it's carrying a little dog. You're not going to catch up, not in the woods. So that is a distinct possibility. I was at a camp once where these people kept their dog, little tiny, 5 to 10 pound dog, 12 pound maybe, tied up outside. Well, the coyotes came in and took the dog away and ate it. Yeah, they're very, very serious. The smaller the dog, the bigger the issue. A big dog has to be attacked by a pack, and that is not the norm, not a routine at all. And so be very careful. Cody and I, this was Cody, and I were camped just outside of Flagstaff. The closer you are to a city, the more coyotes there are. And I know that's counterintuitive, but cities mean people, people means pets, people means trash. There are a lot of coyotes that have moved into big towns, San Francisco, New York. They're living in there. The coyotes are so smart that they figure a way not to be seen, and there's food everywhere. They don't have any problem getting something to eat, and they're smart and can remain hidden and quiet. I'll come back to my story about Cody. One time I was in Pahrump. I'm a Pahrump, Nevada resident, and it snowed. Pahrump will get snow. It's pretty normal for it to get a snow on any given year, I would expect. And this snow lasted. That was what was really unusual. Usually it snows and then is gone. And this snow lasted. So for the next couple of days, when Cody and I would go for a walk, we'd go a walk around. Oh, big, beautiful hawk just flying overhead. Beautiful hawk. I love being out here so much. And so Cody's chasing. Can you see Cody? Can I get the camera down so you see? Cody chases birds. And you probably can't see him well enough, but he's all wet. One of the great things about being in the lake, and one of the reasons I keep coming back on a hot day, he just gets in the lake whenever he gets hot. So he's right here. And Cody's big enough that I don't worry about coyotes with him, although I'll finish telling you my story and come back to it. Okay. Is that about right? Let's see. Let's get that out there and up. Okay, that's about right, I think. Okay, and so which story was I telling you? I got confused. I'll tell you about the coyote story where they were after Cody. He and I, the snow and Pahrump. I'll tell you that one first. So in the morning, we'd walk around, and it was incredible the amount of tracks we found in that fresh snow for the next couple of days. There were, thank you. I don't have, they're not all done, just that one. There were an incredible number of tracks. There were coyote tracks, tons and tons of bird tracks, but rabbit tracks, a lot of rabbit tracks. There were a lot of rabbit tracks in around Pahrump, which is one of the reasons Cody and Homer both loved it. At any rate, yeah, so they were all around, and I just never saw them or heard them. And we were 4 miles out of Pahrump, and Pahrump is a good enough sized town that they were going in there and they were getting lots of food. Pets, they will get pets. They'll take your cat, they'll take your little dog. Enough of them will take a big dog. So another time, Cody and I were near Flagstaff. There were a lot of coyotes around. We would hear them. We were out for a walk one day and down a logging road, lots of logging roads around most of the national forests, wherever I go. And so we're walking down a logging road, and then we see a Cody barks. He stops and barks. Doesn't growl, doesn't run, just stops and barks. And so I looked at where he was looking, and there was a coyote not very far out, a lone coyote. And so he couldn't see past that lone coyote. But I could look past it, because that's the advantage of being human. You're tall. You can see over things. And I could see 4 or 5 more coyotes out waiting in the distance. And so that is a well-known coyote and wolf trick, canine trick. They will send in a single female, often in heat, that will bring a dog out no matter what. A dog just can't resist that. And so the dog will go out to the single female in heat, and then they'll start to play, and she'll lead him right off and into the jaws of the waiting pack. And I believe that's exactly what was going on. So Cody and I headed home right then, back to camp, and we packed up. It was late in the day, or late in the day walk, and we left the next day, because I was afraid they'd just wait outside of camp, because Cody runs around free around camp because there's no one else around. There's no one else for him to bother. And so I wasn't going to be there with coyotes waiting outside of camp, so we left. Big issue, just use a lot of common sense. Little dogs be really, really, really protective. That was the only time I thought I could actually have lost one of my dogs. G-Girl asked, what kind of documentation do we need with our pets as far as vaccines and medical records? All of them. Keep all of them with you at all times, wherever you go. It's just that simple. If you have a tag, keep the tag on him. Keep all of them. Keep all your records at all the times. That's true whether you live in a house or on in a vehicle. If at any time someone asks, you can say, I have them all. Now, the one thing along this lines is there's a Bordetella shot. And you might think, well, I'll never need it. This is what happened to me. I had an emergency in the family. I had to run home right then and be with family for this emergency. So that meant I had to board Cody, because I was all alone in the middle of nowhere. There was a place I could board him in this small town, but they wouldn't take him because he didn't have a Bordetella shot. And so keep that current at all times. It's $15 or something. It's not much money. And that way you can know that at any given time, if you have to put him in get him boarded, you can. And so that's one of the that you may not get. You might think I don't need, and you probably never will. But if that one time you do need it, you really do need it. Okay, Alan asks, I travel with a German Shepherd who is a high prey drive. Boy, both my last 2 dogs, extremely high. I have seen him kill some huge garter snakes in the Southwest. I'm worried about him going after rattlesnakes or getting bit. Please talk about how you protect Cody. I've been very lucky with both Homer and Cody, who've been with me the whole time I've been out boondocking. Neither of them showed any interest in a rattlesnake or any snake. They're curious, but scared. But they're curious and scared. So they've never approached a rattlesnake at all. So, but yours has proven. So I've never done anything about it. And fortunately, there is a thing you can do, and I'll tell you about that. So you would want to do this. You can get you can take your pet to a snake aversion training. And what this guy does is he has, and there are a number of them, and a lot of them in Arizona, because of course it's a big deal here in Arizona, but across the desert Southwest, you can find them. I don't just do a Google search on rattlesnake aversion training. So what they do is you bring your dog in, they have all these rattlesnakes, and they have, they've defanged them and devenomed them. I think people buy the venom. I think they use actual venom in the vaccines. So the venom is valuable, and I think they keep these snakes to actually milk them for the venom. I don't know any of that for sure. I just think it, and I could be wrong. And then you have a whole new question of ethics about the way the rattlesnakes are treated, and that's a valid question. I don't know that I have an answer or enough information to form an opinion, but that's a good question, the one you'd want to consider. At any rate, he has a bunch of these snakes. They're not going to hurt the dog, and the dog has a shock collar. And they start out, if the dog shows any interest in the snakes, they give him a mild shock. If it persists, they give him a little more of a shock. If it persists, they give him more shock, and it keeps getting shocked until the dog loses all interest in snakes. And from then on, that dog will never approach another snake. I mean, dogs are pretty smart, and if it associates it with this terrible shock, and smart ones will learn it, can even learn it with, I think most of them will give a vibration before they give a shock. If he even starts to approach, he'll get a vibration and a noise, and that bothers the dog a lot. And then if he persists, then he gets the vibration. The more he persists, the more he gets shocked. Eventually they learn, do not ever, under any conditions, approach a rattlesnake. And I guess the success rate is extremely, extremely high, almost 100%. And I believe you, and it's not even all that expensive. He probably does, a bunch of dogs at a time, so it's not that expensive. I think, do your Google research. I'm no expert. I've never done it because Cody shows no interest in approaching snakes. I haven't needed to, but if I did need to, I think it's in the ballpark of 60 to 100 bucks, saving your dog's life. Priceless. And so spend whatever that money is. And I believe you might then take them back. The trainer will tell you, take them back yearly or something. Just do whatever it takes. So yes, there is a good solution, and it's rattlesnake aversion training, and it works really well. Kathleen, do you have to be concerned about coyotes getting our dogs during the day? Yes. Or do they only prey on dogs at night when my dog would be inside and safe? No, you need to worry about them during the day. It was broad daylight when I had this pack that was trying to draw Cody out. I have heard of people. I worked at a campground once up in Shaver Lake in the Sierras. So Shaver Lake's above the Fresno, and they would have dogs. One of the campground hosts, now that this all comes back to me, he had little dogs, and he had a pack that came. They get so they learn they can't be hunted. Close to town, you can't hunt them, you can't shoot. And so they learn they're safe from hunting, and they lose a lot of their fear, and they'll come right into town and into the campground. This was in a little tiny town, Shaver Lake was the name. And it was a campground that was literally in Shaver Lake, on a lake. And so he had a coyote come right into town, go after his little tiny dog, and he had to go out there and beat it off with a stick or something. So yes, you do have to. Now again, the further you are away from a town, the safer you are in every possible way. I know that's counterintuitive. I know it doesn't feel like it. I know you probably won't believe me. In every way, you are safer away from a town. Bad guys and the worst of the predators live in towns. Two-legged and four-legged predators live a lot in towns, only in towns for two-leggeds, basically. And so the further away you are from town, the less problem you're going to have. Okay, please talk about common courtesy with dogs. Dogs around my rig scare me, and my dog doesn't like other dogs. I ask them to keep their dog out of my area, and I can't always move each time. Yeah, I'm afraid, and that was Frida. Thank you, Frida. That's a great question. It's so important that you understand. I know Cody won't hurt anything, but he's big enough, and he's black. Black dogs are always more scary if you have a black dog. And he's fairly big. He's not huge by any means, not German Shepherd big, but big. And so if you have a bigger, scarier looking dog, it's terribly, terribly important that you be aware of how other people and other dogs will react. So other dogs are fearful, and sometimes when a dog is afraid, he will attack before he's attacked. Cody, when I got Cody, he was like that. He would attack other dogs on sight because he was afraid they would attack him. I think he must have been in a bad situation before I got him. And so that was something I really had to work on. Boy, I'm going to have to hurry up. We got a lot of them here. And so, yes, terribly important. You think about the person. Some people are terrified of dogs. They had a bad experience as a young person, and now they're afraid of dogs. I personally try to avoid, if I'm out for a walk, I see a camp, I avoid it. I just don't go near the camp. Then I don't have that problem. If I see someone walking near me, I grab Cody, I pull him in close, tight. I carry a leash, even when we're out in the woods. And I don't think there's anyone around. I carry a leash in my pocket, and I can always put him on a leash and call him in. Cody is nearly always on voice command, so I can call him in to me under almost any circumstances at any time. So yes, thank you, Frida, for that point. Be courteous of other people, aware of their fears. I just don't camp around other people, and I only camp around people that know me and Cody and are not going to be afraid, and it will not be a problem. We had a thread on the forum once about Ehrenberg, and there were a lot of people there who had these issues. And they made it be known that it was going to be a serious problem if your dog came into their camp. I've never camped at Ehrenberg since, and I never will, because it's wrong of me to put them in that situation. First, I was actually, and I still am genuinely afraid they would kill Cody. But so I don't want Cody killed, so I won't go there. But it's wrong of me to put other people in a situation where they're afraid for themselves or for their dog. And so don't. And I'd rather be off alone anyway, and so I just go off alone. But Frida, you're very, very right. Thank you for making that point. Gizmo, how do you train your dog to stay around the van? I don't know. Well, I've worked really hard with Cody. I'd use a whistle. Actually, I always have a whistle. With both Homer and Cody, I carry a whistle with me at all times. I've worked very hard on getting them to come. My training methods, you're not going to like this. I believe that in nature, the alpha dog is physically abusive. And so I give Cody more love than any dog can ever hope to get. I give Cody the very best possible life any dog could ever hope to get. Cody loves me. Cody loves this life. He has no reason to ever want to leave me. And he's never acted, other than that at the beginning, like he wanted to. But in the very beginning, if I called him and he did not come, he physically regretted it. And I know already the letters I'm going to get and the emails I'm going to get. I believe that's the way nature works, and that's the way we need to work. I never hurt him. In fact, I never hit him any harder than I would play with him. But with the tone of voice and the knowledge that I was extremely angry, any physical punishment is devastating to a dog. He always went right on his back, my hands around his throat. Always. I remember we were with a group of other people, and he was aggressive towards a really passive dog. Cody can be a bully. I know that bullying streak is in him. So this other dog was passive, so he was going to bully him. The instant he showed any aggression, he was on his back. My hands were both around his throat. I was screaming at him. He knew and was terrified what would happen next. And you can say anything you want. Cody, to me, is now, and people who come around say he's nearly the perfect dog. And I haven't used any physical restraints on him or threats against him in years. And yet, if I call him and he doesn't come, I go silent and I start walking towards him. This is how it always worked. If I call him and he doesn't come, I go silent and I start walking towards him. And if he hasn't come to me by the time I reach him, he goes on his back, my hands around his throat, and he's terrified, and I'm screaming at him. And I haven't had to do that. I've had Cody, I think, almost 5 years. I haven't had to do that in many years. But I've called him a couple times since recently, and if he doesn't come, I go silent, I start walking, he comes right to me. He knows. So that's how I do it. I know, only positive reinforcement. I give tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons. I'm going to say this, tons and tons and tons. No dog is more loved or cared for than Cody, and knows it. But just let him disobey me, let him show aggression towards another dog, and he sees another world. And that's just the way it would happen in nature. Lori, how do dogs handle extreme temps in the van? They die. That's all there is. They die. They're in extreme discomfort. If it doesn't end, they get really sick. And if that doesn't end, they die. That's the only way they do it. They die. So you cannot let that happen. If you love your dog, you'll never, ever let them be in extreme temps. Cold is another story. Dogs can endure a lot of cold, but I'm never in that kind of cold, so I've never been in it. I mean, the teens is the coldest I've ever had Cody, and he had a coat on. When we get into the teens, I'm trying to keep the van warm, although it's kind of hard. At that time, I didn't have any insulation, and it was in the teens. He had a coat on the whole time. I had him go to bed. I always covered him. I woke up in the middle of the night and recovered him. I really cared about him. But no, you avoid extremes. Dogs, pets can't be in extremes. Dogs, pets cannot, must not be in extreme temperatures. If they are, they die. That's all they do. They just die. And so, or they suffer tremendously. Don't do that. I'm a snowbird. I'm comfortable. The van's comfortable. That's what you got to do. And if you can't do that, if you can't keep your van out of extremes of temperature, and if you can't put them in an RV park where you know they'll have air conditioning, don't have a pet. That's my answer to you. That's always my answer. Dogs can't be in extreme temperatures in a van. Okay, I've said that enough. I hope. You can't say that enough. People still do it and dogs still die. Terry and Ken, do you need different licenses if they're traveling state to state with us? No. No, they're licensed in one place, and no one will. Never had a problem with that. In fact, Cody has never been licensed. It's never been an issue. Robert, how do you bathe your dog on the road? I don't. The only time I ever bathe either of my dogs is if they roll and poop, and they do, and then I use up my water supply. I would pour. I have a couple. I have 5. Say I have 10 1-gallon cans, jugs of water. I pour half over him. I spray him with soap. I get him all wet. I'm wearing gloves because he's full of poop. Let me get that other so you can see me. So that you just bathe him on the road. When Cody poops, I had Cody roll and poop 3 or 4 times in 1 week. I was so angry. And one time we were just driving through high country and it had snowed. And it was late in the evening. We'd stop for our late evening walk and he found some poop and rolled in it. And I'm putting him back in the van full of poop. So before we got in the van, in the snow, I'm giving a bath outside. And boy, oh, I was so bad. Now I've never punished him. The bath is plenty of punishment, but it still doesn't stop him. In fact, within the last 2 weeks and I'm at the lake now. One of the great things about being in the lake, if he rolls in the poop, he goes right out in the lake. Yeah, you just give him baths. I have a video testing water pumps about how you bathe. So if you go to YouTube, the search bar, type in cheap RV living, and then bathing dogs. And I have a video on bathing dogs, and you can see it there. CTV, how do you feel about pet insurance? I have a friend who has pet insurance, and he loves it and wouldn't do without it. I've never bought it. It's up to you to decide for yourself. I can't really answer. I can only say I know of at least one guy who always has it and is glad he has it, and I never have, and I don't regret it. Homer he had all kinds of things. He got old, his thyroid failed, and he got bone cancer, and he also had valley fever all at once. And that year, I probably spent several $1,000s on him. Had I had pet insurance, I wouldn't have. And then I just gave up. He was in a lot of pain, and it was bad. I really shouldn't have waited. I think I tend to wait a little too long, and that's a mistake. Every time it happens, I say I'll never do that again. But it's so hard putting the one you love so much down that, yeah. And had not had that insurance, I had the couple thousand to spend, but if I didn't, boy, I would have really glad I had pet insurance. Crystal Clark's asked, please discuss what you know about parrots and vans. It isn't a lot. I do know a lady who had parrots. She lived in a fifth wheel for a while, and she needed to downsize, and she ended up in a cargo trailer. She pulled it with a van, and she and the pets were in the cargo trailer. So she designed a cargo trailer with the birds in mind. I believe she would let them out and they would fly around in the cargo trailer, which is hard to do in any RV because of or most rigs, or even your van isn't long enough. So if you buy, say you buy a 7-foot by 14 or 18-foot cargo trailer, those are fairly expensive. Or a horse trailer. So you get an older horse trailer. All enclosed, nothing open, of course. And a lot of horse trailers now come the front enclosed with the home and the back is open. So I think that's what she did, and she did it for a long time. And I don't know any more details. I think mainly the thing would be your home. If they do fly, I think hers actually did fly. And that's really all I can tell you. I'm sorry, I just don't know. Now you know everything I know. Tracy, do you think my 160-pound dog, that is a big dog, would be okay on the road? She's super friendly. Well, is she obese and unhealthy? At 160 pounds, that's, although I knew a guy who had an enormous dog. That dog was well over 100. I mean, 120, a big dog can be 120 and be a healthy weight. 160 is big. The dog needs to be healthy. And if it's healthy, 160 pounds, he'll make everybody afraid. That's the one thing you always have to remember. That's the question that was asked earlier, and it's so important. A huge dog scares people. You walk up to someone with a huge dog, or your huge dog is tied up outside, they're afraid. That's the way it's going to be. Some people, their fascination is more important than their fear, and they'll come right up. But everyone's going to be afraid, and so that is something you have to compensate for. That you have to park further out. You can't just be in with everyone. Once people know you, see, then that's what you'll do. That's what always happened to me. I always camped with friends I knew, and they all knew Cody. They all knew Homer. They knew he was the biggest love bug in the world, both of them. And they were never afraid. Homer was a big black dog, and that scares people. But they knew Homer and knew wouldn't be fearful. But if I came into a new camp or a camp I'd never been in before, I was aware they were going to be afraid, and I treated them. I treated them with respect of keeping him away, keeping him tight and close to me, introducing him and say, he's going to be okay. Is it okay if we come in and visit? Just have to be very respectful. I think that's the big issue. And of course, the room. I mean, if you're in a minivan, we're going to put a 160-pound dog. If you're in a van, we're going to put a 160-pound dog. I can't imagine. Homer was tall, but super lean and muscular. He only weighed 80 pounds. When he got old, I told you, like, he lost his thyroid went bad. He put on a lot of weight. He weighed 100 pounds then, and he still wasn't fat. He was just as big as he should have been. He was so athletic. He was a superb athlete. Fastest dog I've ever seen. But he was really tall. What about dogs drinking pond water? Peggy, thank you. Great question. I don't mind. I let them. My dogs have all. I don't understand it. Every dog I've ever owned wanted to drink out of mud puddles. I'd have Cody has got water in the van at all times, and he's running right out and grabbing the pond water. It's hot. It's pretty hot. So he's in the pond a lot, and so he drinks when he gets in there. And Homer always did the same. Was always in the creek, water, pond, anything. You can Giardia. Is still an issue with dogs. It can be. Most dogs, they have such strong gut acid, it kills the Giardia. Is not an issue. It can be. Dogs can get Giardia, beaver fever. There is a Giardia vaccine for dogs. I have never done it, but I do know people who have. And so if you're concerned about it, you can do that, and that solves the whole problem. That's mainly what you're concerned about is Giardia. I've never had it. I've never done it. I've never had a dog. I've been boondocking for 11 years now with dogs, and I've never had a problem with Giardia or beaver fever or anything. Should pets be neutered or spayed? Of course, Peg asks. Of course, all pets should be neutered or spayed. You don't want them. There are plenty of unwanted pets being born. Don't contribute. Don't. No, yes, all pets should be neutered and spayed. That's my personal opinion. I know a lot of you disagree. I've had friends who did not and refused, and he had male dog, and you would say, well, and he would go out and get other dogs pregnant, and he knew it. And he said, well, that's their fault. That's their owner's fault. Well, that's feminism. That's misogyny. That's just another form of hating women, putting all the blame on the victim blaming. And there are going to be a lot of you who are angry and start writing letters about that. I don't care. That's what I think. Think anything you want. You can think I'm wrong. You can tell me I'm wrong. You can think I'm, say whatever nasty thing you want to say. That's fine. I can live with that. We disagree. We'll have to agree to disagree. That's what I believe. Every pet should be neutered and spayed. Gypsy Candy, when your pet dies while on the road, what are your options for dealing with the body? I've had one pet die on the road. Homer, I put Homer down. It was too much. He was in pain a lot. I took him to a vet, and I laid on the ground while the vet administered the shot, and laid down with him and held him and watched the light go out of his eyes, and then I had him cremated. I was just lazy. You can have those. Thank you. I better hurry. I got to hurry up, folks. They're the same. I could have buried him out in the woods. I could have taken him out and buried him in the woods. I could have taken him out somewhere and buried him in the desert. I have a friend who lost her pet out in the woods and on the road. She was on the road and buried her dog in the woods. And someone I love, and she loves, and I know where the pet is. And I go and I visit. I once, when I lived in a house, buried a pet in the backyard. I don't live in that house anymore now. I can't go see him. It's such a personal decision. I can't tell you. The only time it's happened to me, I had him cremated, and that's all. Okay, that was that one. Number 5, Robert. Boy, we have a lot of pet questions, don't we? How much space do you need for Cody in the van? Cody sleeps on the bed with me, and it's a van, and so I have a box that sits in between the two front seats, and I have that filled in. It's a Rubbermaid action packer. If you can look that up, Amazon I'm sure sells them. Rubbermaid action packer. It fits right in between the front seats of a Chevy Express, and I have a pillow on top of it, and then he gets the hole across the bed. That's the same thing I did with Homer. Homer was a much bigger dog, and he kind of slept over the whole thing. And he can walk over to me while we drive. He will come over and sit beside me while I drive. And so I really enjoy that. And I'll put my arm around him, and he'll actually come up and put his head up on my chest while we drive. And I enjoy that. And so that's enough. And he sleeps there, and spends all of his time outside. Unless it's raining, he's outside. And even if it's raining, he's going for a walk out in the rain. So that's all he needs. He needs a bed to sleep on at night. At night, he always starts in his bed and ends up in my bed. And that's the way it was with Homer, too. Homer would start off in his own bed, and in the morning, he would always be in bed with me. And so that's really all you need. If you can do that, you're okay. And I slept with both when I had Homer, and it was a different van, and this van, I slept diagonal on the bed. So in the one corner, there is a big open space, that triangle, and that's where both Homer and Cody sleep. How much space do you need how do you keep pets cool when outdoors? I'm just not in hot places. Cody's running around now. We got a lake. If it gets hot, he'll go under the van. He will dig a hole under the van, dig a little shallow depression, and lay under the van in the depression. Both Homer and Cody both did that. And I'm in the woods. You see right now, there's plenty of shade. There's plenty of shades, plenty of shade. He can go lay down in the shade. He can lay under the van. Here he can go in the pond. I don't go hot places, so it's not an issue outside. How do I keep my pets cool in the van while I'm in the store or shower? You can't be in a hot place. That's all I can say. I'm a snowbird. I go where it's not hot. It gets fairly hot where I'm at. It'll get in the 90s, but that's bearable because I'm in the forest. In the forest, in the 90s is okay. He can be under a tree, and I have water, but that's not the norm. He could find cool places. You've got to be a snowbird with a pet. Your dog will die. He'll be in misery or he'll die. And so you have to be a snowbird with a pet, or you have to have the money to go into an RV park and pay for electricity to get AC. Then you have to be 100% certain that AC never goes out. I don't have any other solutions. We actually have a video coming out Monday. This is Wednesday. Next Monday, I have a video out on keeping your pets cool. It's fine where I'm at now, where it's in the 90s in the forest. It's a great supplement, and I think you're going to really like it. But it's never going to work in the desert at 100 degrees. Never, never, never. You'll die. Your dog will just die. Or if we weren't in the forest and it were 100 degrees, the high plains, it just doesn't work. You've got to be a snowbird. When you're a snowbird, on next Monday, I have a video coming out that will help. That's about all I can tell you. Robert, how are there certain dogs better for nomadic life? I think a medium-sized dog is your best choice. I think Cody is about the right size. He's a little overweight. He's probably around 45 pounds. His perfect weight would probably be 40. A 40-pound dog is big enough you're not terrified of coyotes, small enough to fit in the van, not so huge he terrifies people. Those are the key issues. He has to fit in the van. He can't be so big he scares people, because then that's always a problem. Or fights with other dogs. He can't have any kind of aggressive tendencies at all. So yeah, I lost train of my thought. Are there certain dogs better for nomadic life? And then a lot of people like small dogs, and there's just no question small dogs fit in vans better. In cars. In a car, you'd have to be a small dog. 160-pound dog's not fitting in a car. My Homer wouldn't have fit in a car. He was 100 pounds at the most, and 80 most of his life. Small dogs, you have to be very concerned about coyotes, period. You got to be very concerned. Be aware of them. But I've known a lot of people with small dogs, and the number of them that had problems were minuscule. The odds are really, really against it. The odds of any of these things are tiny. The odds of your dog being struck by a scorpion or a rattlesnake, tiny, almost non-existent. More likely to be struck by lightning, most of these things. So we exaggerate the risk, but they're real. Rattlesnakes are real. Cody has and Homer both encountered. They probably had a dozen encounters in their entire lives, the last 11 years, maybe once a year at most. I don't even think that's the average, where they saw and were aware of a rattlesnake. It's just really uncommon. Scorpions are non-issues, totally. I don't know why people are so worried about scorpions. What is the recommended flea tick prevention? Drops versus collars, which is more efficient? I talked about my vet about that. He liked the drops. That's what I do. That's what I do. That's what I recommend. That's what my vet recommended. Again, you might want to go read. Let me see if I can turn this around. I think I'm looking in the sun now. Where am I looking into the sun? The sun's kind of getting over there. I need to move me. Yeah, he did drops down the back. Is it better to start a kitten young to wear a harness? I'm afraid I cannot answer. You can have these two. I'll give you those two, and I'll take that one. I don't know enough about kittens to answer that. I would think so. Nearly always you start something young. I got to move so I'm not looking into the sun with you folks. Yeah, nearly always if you start them young, it's going to be better. So I would say yes, but that's not from experience. Again, I have no experience with cats. I owned a cat once when I was a younger man. It's probably been 40 years. So I don't have any current experience to draw on about cats whatsoever. And you're still looking in the sun. All right, that's good enough. It's not that bad, is it? I always worry. All right, this is number 6. Do you attract wild critters when cooking? Never have. I was a campground host in the Sierras. The Sierras are full of bears. But I was down in an area where there were a lot of bears. I was a campground host for 3 years in the Sierras, the western Sierra low foothills. I was at 7,000 feet. It's not like I wasn't. And I would go for a walk. Homer and I, this was Homer, would go for a walk twice a day, every day, no matter what, always. And in that course of that 4 years, we ran into, and by run into, I mean within 100 feet of, I've forgotten, I used to keep a total, I think it was 5 bears, live bears, once very close, very, very close. I could tell you stories. And no, I always cooked a meal the whole time I lived in the Sierras, those 4 years, and never once brought in any kind of a critter, coyotes or bears. There was hunting there. Anywhere there's a hunting season, bears are afraid of you. They don't want anything to do with you. Although we had some campgrounds in the high country, up over 8,000-9,000 feet in the Sierras, and they all had bear bins, and bears would come right into camp. Cooking would bring them into camp. So it depends all on your location. There is no one answer. In those locations, cooking would bring in bears. If there are bear boxes, be afraid. Be hyper alert. Do everything right. We never had bear boxes, so I was never hyper alert towards bears, and it was never an issue. I had a bear one time in my campground. It was late in the season. There were no campers. It was midweek. There were no campers. They only came in on the weekends in off season. And the bear saw me and turned and ran as fast as he could. I think he was coming to the trash. We had a dumpster. Rick, does Cody roam far? No, both Cody, when I walk, he roams far. Homer roamed really far when we went for walks. It scared me a number of times. A number of times I came home without Homer and was afraid. One time I came home and it was like hours before Homer came home. That I was afraid. But Cody's never roamed far. I don't think he's within yelling distance. They're both always within yelling distance. But my voice, I got a big voice and it carries long ways. No. Robert, how much space would a dog need in a minivan? It needs to lay down. He needs a place to lay down. That's about all. If he sleeps on the bed, then you need a bed big enough for him to lay down on beside you. Like I said, in my van, a full-size van, I put a box in between, and Cody gets both. He can sleep all the way across. He needs room to spread out and be comfortable and sleep. That's about all I can tell you. And the problem is most of us make our minivan beds real thin. And so that would be hard where we sleep. Rob J, are there any pets that we are not good for van life? That are not good for van life? I don't know. I do know a friend. I knew someone else who had a snake as a van life. I've known people with cats. I'll be honest. I'll just be completely honest. If it were me, I wouldn't go out with anything but a dog. But that's just me. I know a lot of people who've gone out with a lot of other things and are very glad they did. My personal opinion, for my choice, for me alone, not for speaking for anyone else, I wouldn't have anything but a dog. I knew someone with a pig. This last season, I ran into someone with a pet pig. What do you do if your dog gets lost? You cry. What's going dark? What's going on? What time is it? I have about 4 more minutes. Why is the camera dark? Oh, heartworm. Yeah, get your someone I just read real quickly. Someone had a heartworm issue. Get your dog tested and then on heartworm medicine. Yes, very good. What I did lose Cody once. A number of times I've come back from camp without either of them. They all come back usually within minutes. Most of the times if we're separated, I wish I knew why the camera's gone dark. That scares me. I hope you're still out there. And it scares you. There's one time, I won't tell you the story. It's a long story and I'm out of time. One time I was convinced that Cody had been eaten by a mountain lion. I'd actually run into the mountain lion. He had not come home. I'd come home by 9:30 in our morning walk. He hadn't come home by about 12:30. I went looking for him. I ran into a mountain lion. The mountain lion chose not to eat me or kill me. And I was terrified because I was sure he had eaten Cody. And he never did come home. Long story short, I got a call from I was outside of West Yellowstone, Montana, and I got a call, an email from the local police department. They had Cody. Somebody found him and taken him in. The mountain lion had not eaten him.
You want me to take any of that?
I'm done anyway. Maybe I'll go a little over. You just worry and you cry. That's all. If your dog gets lost, I went and looked for him. I followed the exact same path. When I lose sight of Cody on a walk, I can turn in a 360-degree circle and he'll come from any one of those directions. He moves fast, and Homer both. He moves fast, he moves far. There's no going and finding him out in the woods. In the desert, there is. You can get a vantage point, hopefully, and see a long ways. In the desert, in the woods, the forest, there is no finding him. There's no going and looking for him and finding him. The one time he never came home, that one time with the mountain lion, I went and looked for him and, oh, bubbles, I'll turn on the bubbles. And along the path, and then I ran into the mountain lion, bubbles. And then I ran into the mountain lion. Did they come on? Mountain lion, bubbles. They're bubbles. Everyone gets bubbles. What would it be like without bubbles? You just worry and cry. There's nothing you can do. Al, how to stop my dog when he is dragging his butt on van carpet? Does it have to do with anal glands? I'm not a vet. I don't know. I'm not even going to speculate. That's all. It'd be wild speculation, and that doesn't make any sense for me to wildly speculate. I'm sorry. Google. Have you Googled it? My answer is always look for Google. Google probably give you an answer. Robert, how do you handle grocery shopping, running errands, etc. with a dog while living in a van? I'm a snowbird. I go where it's not all that cold. And that's my advice to everyone who wants to have a dog. You must be a snowbird. You must go where it's not all that hot, not all that cold. Yeah, that's it. I just go where he's not going to be in danger in the van. M. Peltrich, is having 2 large dogs going to be difficult when I go full time? If you're in a minivan, yeah, it's going to be very difficult. If you're in a van, it'll be harder, but possible. If you're in an RV, it won't be any problem at all. If you're in a cargo trailer, it's going to be a bigger problem. 2 big dogs is a problem. I'm sorry. If you have 2 big dogs, there's pretty much nothing else to say, but yeah, it'll very likely be a bit of a problem. Big dogs are hard to fit into a rig. As long as they're well controlled, it won't be a problem other than sleeping and having them inside and scaring people. Those are your issues. How do you remove ticks? What's the best method you use? Does Cody get ticks? No, Cody rarely gets ticks. He has. I got many, many more ticks when I lived in a house. We lived in North Carolina for a while, and boy, we got ticks galore. I've had almost in the desert, you don't get ticks. I've never had a tick in the desert. I just have not had an issue with ticks. I do keep the bug juice on them. I forget what it's called. And you do a Google search. You'll find a lot of experts commenting on it. All you have to do is put something underneath the head, pull them out. That's what you do. But do a Google search and find experts who will tell you what to do. Chris, what do they do in classes for avoiding rattlesnakes? Well, we went over this, but I'll quickly go over it. They put a collar on your neck. They put your dog around rattlesnakes that cannot hurt them. And then when the dog approaches the rattlesnakes, even though they can't hurt them, they shock them. And they start out with a mild shock. If they persist in approaching them, they give them a bigger shock. If they approach them, they get this huge shock, and they learn not to get near rattlesnakes. Boy, I think it's tremendously effective. I would recommend it. Neither of my dogs approach rattlesnakes, so it's not an issue for me. CTV, how do you feel about using a hike and strike? It is a stun cane, like a stun gut, but a cane. I've never, for two-legged critters, you might consider it. I wouldn't consider it for a four-legged critter. Although, you know what I have run into when I was in a campground a couple times was feral dogs. The most afraid I've been is from feral dogs. Feral dogs are vicious. See, coyotes aren't vicious. They want to eat. And the risk from attacking a human is so great that they won't do it, because all they want to do is eat and survive. Feral dogs are vicious. They will attack just out of viciousness. So the only time I would recommend a stun gun, a weapon, spray, is when your feral dogs are an option, are a risk. Because feral dogs are the single biggest risk factor you or your pet will ever face. Nothing else is, I've never had anything else be a really big risk and in my 11 years. Okay, man, we're almost getting through them. One more. So only if you're, should you use a stun gun, they make canes and staffs with stun guns. I'm actually going to do a video on that. I've shot the video, it just isn't ready to go up in a series. Only if you're worried about feral, wild, vicious dogs. Lady badness. Are fans enough to keep your pet cool? No. If it's 110 degrees, fans aren't enough. You got to be in a cool place. Nothing's going to keep your dog cool, your pet cool, other than air conditioning. If you're in Phoenix in the summer, your dog's just going to die. And if it's not, it's going to wish it were dead. No, fans aren't enough. Donna, are there many places where dogs aren't allowed? National parks. National parks. Yeah, it's not been an issue almost anywhere. It's not been an issue for me at all. Yeah. Nomadic idea. Please mention coyotes in the RTR to be careful. I don't believe we've ever had an issue with coyotes in the RTR, but I'm sure they're there. Yeah, your dog, you should always be aware, especially if you have a small dog, of coyotes wherever you are. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know that I think it's probably less worrisome. If you're in dead center of the RTR surrounded by 5,000 people, you probably have less to worry about than you do if you were off in a camp with 2 or 3 people. By far less more to worry about. So I don't think it's worse at the RTR. You always need to be aware of coyotes and your dog, wherever you are. Emily, can you live in the back of a truck camper shell with a cat and a small dog? You can. You can. Yes. The cat, boy, does your cat want to escape? Can you keep it from escaping? If it escapes, can you get it back? Will you keep it on a leash all the time? Your cat gets out there, runs into a coyote, that's going to be that. Same with a small dog. Small dog gets out there, runs into a coyote, that's the end of that. It's still all about control of the animal. And smaller cat and dog means more risk. I know that's not the answer you probably want, but can it be done? Yes, from your point of view, the back of a pickup is enough. It's the pets getting outside that's going to be the issue. It doesn't have anything to do with it being a camper. It's you constraining them, keeping them close, and coyotes getting them outside. That's the issue, not the truck camper. And you know what? That's going to be the same thing whether you're in a van or an RV. They get outside, they face the exact same risk of harm that they do in either the world's biggest RV or a Prius. It's just how likely are they to get outside and escape? And I think it's more likely in a Prius than it is in an RV because you have so many limited egress and ingress with an RV. You can control it more. Same with a van. That's the issue, not the size of the vehicle. With a small dog and a cat. With a big dog, it becomes the size of the vehicle. Two big dogs in a truck camper shell, man, and where are you going to put all your stuff? I mean, literally, where are you going to put all your stuff? Okay, that's enough. I went over a little bit, but I got all the questions she brought to me answered. We average 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a page, and I think we answered about 40 questions. Some duplication. So I hope that helped. I hope that gave you a lot of good ideas. I'm surprised we had this many questions on pets, but I guess no one ever talks about it, so it's good. Let me encourage you again to go to my pet veterinarian. He's an expert. He's the real deal. I'm talking to you from my anecdotal experience, and he's a vet. And no one ever watched those. It made me sad, not because I didn't make any money on them, because I didn't pay anything. But here's my vet. And he's an expert on Nomad pets, and no one watched it. So please go watch that. And this Monday, it's Wednesday, I think it's the 18th. I'm not sure of that. This Monday, I will have a video out on keeping pets cool. The idea will be, don't cool the environment, cool the pet. We'll talk about cooling vests. We bought a bunch and tested them, and a cooling sweater and a cooling pad that they sleep on. You get things wet and it gets on them. That's really the only suggestion I have for beating heat. If you have a dog that likes water, you could get a baby blow up pool and put towels on it and get the towels wet. And if your dog will lay on them, that will keep him cool. That's about the only thing I know other than AC, because when your dog's tummy is wet, when his fur is wet, he'll stay cool. But a lot of dogs won't stay cool, and you then have to, and that's what, and you put the towels down so they absorb the water and it's just not splashing around, then you'll have a big mess. And what if your dog gets off there and jumps on your bed, and then your bed's all wet and muddy. So it's not the ideal. That's one of the few things. Another thing, I should quit, I'm sorry. You can make these ice chest coolers. Just go to Google and YouTube and look up ice chest coolers. You put a hole, you blow a fan in, you have a tube coming out. If you can confine your dog or your cat to a kennel, and that will last, that cooling, and then put them in the kennel, blow that fan into the kennel, and cover the kennel with a blanket to insulate it, then you can cool that tiny space for as long as the ice lasts, and that's probably all day. And so if the fan breaks, the dog dies if it's extremely hot. It's risky, but it's the only thing that I know of that doesn't take a huge amount of electricity to run solar, to run an AC, and that might work. And I don't know, it'd be very risky, and let us know if you try it. Okay, I'm done. Thanks, folks, for watching. I really appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of you that have subscribed, that like, that think. Is there something I forgot?
Next live feed topic, July 24th.
Oh, very good.
I'm not sure if you want that one or that one.
The next two topics coming up on Wednesday. We're doing a Wednesday live every week. Will be stealth camping. Will be a week from today, and boondocking the week after. So we're just going through topics that people are interested in. And Monday's video is how to keep your pets cool. It's time to go with this, and it's keeping your pet cool with the pet itself, not the space, not the environment, the pet. And so next Wednesday will be stealth camping topic. The following week will be boondocking. I've done a lot of both. I know what I'm doing with both, and that will be the topic. So ask your questions, and we will try to answer them. Well, thanks, folks. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And bye. Trying to make it go away.